Hey YouTube, what is up? We are getting new cards left and right in the TCG, so I figured with all these new packs coming out and how close together they are, I figured I'd make this video. Now this isn't specifically just next format, but these are decks that are going to be coming up as we go down the line. Some of this is based off of what's happening in the OCG. Basically, I've been watching what decks have been topping rather recently and, slightly into the past because we're basically 6 months behind the OCG, though not every deck in this is from the OCG. And with that being said, this is my top 5 decks to look out for in the next few formats. In the number 5 slot, I put Dark Magicians, and now even though this is a deck that I absolutely love, I gotta admit it's probably just tier 2 at best because of how fragile it can be at times. It relies really heavily on Eternal Soul, something we haven't even gotten in the TCG yet, though we do finally have a TCG printing confirmed. Anyway, it relies on Eternal Soul to pump out Dark Magicians left and right on your turn and on your opponents, but the fact that this trap, if it dies, basically Raigekis your whole field, leaves you in a very vulnerable state most of the time. I mean, if you set up board with some pretty decent rank 7s, throw in a Big Eye, throw in a Flare Metal, have a Dark Magician, maybe an Ebon Illusion Magician, and then, other monsters on the board as well, and your opponent just flips MST and pops your Eternal Soul, you're just gonna cry as they dump about 10 tons of salt on you. It really is the choke point of the deck. The ability to special summon Dark Magicians whenever you want on your turn and whenever you want on your opponent's turn is pretty nice, but the whole field Raigeki thing really is a drawback to it. It's almost like a glass cannon. You have the potential to bring big stuff out, but it's very fragile if you leave yourself open. And now that I, kind of covered its weaknesses, I gotta say the deck's strong points in my mind is the combo that you can have between Dark Magic Circle and Eternal Soul, where you special summon a Dark Magician and basically banish any one card your opponent controls every turn, your turn and theirs, and its ability to crank out the rank 7 toolbox. Also, you can use Ebon Illusion Magician to banish even more if you attack with a normal spellcaster, a Dark Magician if you couldn't figure it out. All in all though, you really need Eternal Soul to get this deck going. I've been playing it for a while, and if you don't get Eternal Soul turn 1, it's pretty tough. It doesn't have all that much draw power to it. You could sprinkle in Sword of the 7 Stars, but even then you're banishing cards that you might not want to banish because then you can't get them back later on because you have no recovery from the banish zone, which is pretty tough. So all in all, the only way to really get to the cards you want is through excavating through Dark Magic Circle's top deck looking effect, and at times that's just too slow. So that's why I gave Dark Magicians the number 5 spot. It has potential, but it isn't that strong. And for the number 4 spot, I'm putting SPYRAL. Now, if any of you guys don't know what SPYRAL is, don't be confused because it is something that hasn't been released in the OCG. This is a TCG exclusive releasing in the Dark Illusion, and it is yet to be released, obviously, because the Dark Illusion hasn't come out. We really don't know much more about it, other than the fact that it's a TCG exclusive and its name is SPYRAL, spelled with a Y instead of an I. And the reason I'm giving it the number 4 spot is because if you look at TCG exclusives in the past, like BA and Cosmo, you can see that TCG exclusives have the potential to be very meta-relevant, almost meta-defining. BA has been around since like August of 2014, and it's still meta-relevant and has been meta-relevant for the last 2 years. That's pretty nuts. Cosmo, I don't even need to explain to you guys, you know how meta-relevant Cosmo is. Also, I do know we are getting 2 TCG exclusives, but in my mind, this is going to be the good one. And if you don't know what I mean by the good one, usually they have a good and bad pattern. If we have a good TCG exclusive, we get a bad one. When we had BA, we also had UA, which was Ultimate Athletes, and that was bad. We have Cosmo and we have Kaiju. So Cosmo is good, Kaiju is bad. So now I think it's time for another good TCG exclusive. Now the reason I give it a number 4 spot is because it does have potential because of how meta-defining some TCG exclusives have been in the past, but we just don't know. And there's a lot of unknowns. So that's why I gave it the number 4 spot, though there have been rumors that it's also spy themed, maybe 007, maybe Metal Gear. And to hop back over to OCG land, in the number 3 spot we have Metalfoes. If you don't know what it is, it's a Pendulum Fusion deck. This Metalfoes archetype has seen some decent success lately in the OCG, especially when you sprinkle in the Magispector engine, and as a result, I think it has earned the number 3 spot. The deck's ability to basically pop its own scales to search out its own poly is pretty nuts, and all the vanilla pendulum monsters have the pendulum effect, which allows you to directly set a Metalfoes trap or spell, which helps you avoid a Mind Crush, but does make you slightly vulnerable to MST and Twin Twister. The only fusion that has an effect is Aura Hulk, which does double piercing damage and targets the card in the field and destroys it if it is sent from the field to the graveyard. Cardinals, and other fusion, but it's basically just a 3k beater with 3k defense. This deck does have access to rank 4s in some sense, and it does also have access to rank 3 engine stuff, but what really helps this deck along is its fusion card. Not only is it searchable, but it also makes you go plus. If Metalfoes' fusion is in your graveyard, you can shuffle it back to your deck and draw 1. It basically is a better version of Prime Monarch's on-field effect, though it does have a hard once per turn for the returning to deck effect. Though you do basically get to add a fusion back, draw a card, then pop your own scales, search it, set it on the field, and then fuse all over again. And if you make Aura Hulk the first time, then you can use it as material for a second fusion where you get to pop your opponent's monster because it leaves the field. The deck also has a trap which allows you to special summon a Metalfoes from your deck if any card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, like if you pop your own scales. Also, any turn after the one it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish the trap to add any face-up pendulum Metalfoes monster in your extra deck to your hand. Then there's the other Metalfoes trap, Metalfoes combination, which is continuous and allows you to special summon a Metalfoes monster from grave if you fusion summon, basically giving you more materials to use with your second fusion. Combo with the Magispector engine, it has some amazing swarm abilities and extra deck capabilities. And that's why I gave it the number 3 spot. Now, in the number 2 spot is a deck with 3 Ds in its name. It is DDD, and it is absolutely crazy. This deck has a really high skill ceiling. Compared to any other deck in this format, I'd say it has the potential to be the most complicated, and abuses pretty much every form of special summon to crank out as many boss monsters as possible. Very reminiscent of how you'd chuck out about 50 different synchro, fusion, and extra deck versions of Draco monsters in Pepe. Though, unlike Pepe, this deck does really love to special summon from the grave through cards like Genghis and Alexander. At times, the boards I've made while playing this deck have been more broken than opening turns from Pepe. There are games where I've literally gone turn 1, opened DDD Swirl Slime, Necro Slime, Kepler, Lamia, and Dark Contract with the gate, and ended turn 1 with a Crystal Wing, a Titanic Galaxy, and a Hexblood King Siegfried. Now, if you don't know what that means, I can basically negate any monster effect, 2 spells, or a spell and a trap all turn 1. Also, did I mention I also went +1 from using a Formula Synchron to make it, and if Titanic Galaxy wasn't your style, I was also able to make the same board, only with Cyframe Lord Omega instead of Titanic Galaxy. Now, the reason I gave this deck the number 2 spot instead of the number 1 spot is because it is very easy to mess it up. If you screw up even one combo, you will leave yourself with Kepler in attack position with 0 attack, and a few contracts which are going to burn you for 2k if your opponent doesn't ram Kepler down your throat first. So because of its easy ability to burn yourself, I'm giving it the number 2 slot. However, if you are able to pull off the right combos, you really are unstoppable at times, and will most likely win by turn 2 with probably somewhere around 12,000 life points. And I know I didn't go as in depth with this deck as I did with the Metalfoes cards, but if you've played this deck in all its OCG glory, you know how complicated it can get. Maybe I'll make it up to you guys with a combo video one day. And finally, the number 1 spot goes to Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is without a doubt the number 1 deck to look out for in the upcoming formats, though we will be seeing some interesting matches with Cosmo, as that's something we have not seen in the OCG yet because they don't have Cosmo and we don't have full power Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes Full Power has access not only to the rank 8 toolbox of Titanic Galaxy, all the Galaxy Eyes cards, Felgrand Landslot into 7 Sins, Gimmick Puppet Dragulon Thunder End, and Shinra High Protector, but also every Light Dragon Synchro in the game, which includes Michael, Black Rose Moonlight, Stardust Spark, Light End, Ancient Fairy, and Crystal Wing Synchro, all thanks to Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. It also spits out 3k beat sticks left and right, without simply more than revealing as cost. I'm looking at you, Blue Eyes Alternative. And it gets to pop a monster once per turn when it's summoned, though it can't attack that turn. That's alright though, just use it as XYZ material. There's also Dragon Spirit of White, which on summon banishes an opponent's spell or trap, and it can be tributed to bring out a Blue Eyes during anybody's turn, as long as your opponent controls one monster. The 1-star tuners in his deck are also no slouch, and if you discard Whitestone of Ancients off of cards of Consonance, not only do you draw 2 cards, but you also get to special summon a Blue Eyes, and then you can banish the Stone of Ancients from your graveyard to add a Blue Eyes monster from grave to hand. So basically you draw 2 cards, special summon a Blue Eyes, and then add Alternative to your hand. And they say Pantheism's good. You can also normal summon Sage with Eyes of Blue to add any light level 1 tuner to your hand, or you can normal summon Maiden with Eyes of Blue, target it with Sage with Eyes of Blue, and then special summon 2 Blue Eyes, 1 from deck and 1 from anywhere else, and yes, this does include Blue Eyes Alternative if it is in the graveyard. You have even more draw power in this deck thanks to cards like Trade-In, where you get to draw 2 cards and just send a Blue Eyes to graveyard, where you could basically special back whenever you want it. And when we see the release of Pot of Cupidity or Dupidity, however it is translated, you're going to see even more draw power in this deck, though you do have to banish 10 cards face down. If you're going for the OTK, it doesn't matter if you don't have a deck left because you're not going to have to draw for the next turn. The fact that you could probably spit out maybe 12k damage with this deck and negate stuff along the way is pretty broken. All in all, this deck's sheer amount of draw power, coupled with its ability to special summon not only near endless 3k beat sticks, but also pop monsters, spells, and traps in the process, and then go into either the rank 8 toolbox or special summon every single light synchro dragon in the game, is pretty broken in my mind, and that's why I gave it the #1 spot. If you guys have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear your opinions. If there's a deck that you think should be in here, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, you can follow me on Twitter @Schwabs or like my Facebook page to see when I post these videos. And if you really enjoyed it, you can click subscribe because it's free, it's fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.